Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's session, the ABCs of Great Culture and Performance. My name is Sarah Skerrick, and I'm the head of editorial here at Engagement Multiplier. And today we're going to be hearing from our founder and CEO, Stefan Wissenbach. Hi, Stefan.
Hi, good afternoon, or good morning.
Or good morning, as it were. Before we start, I'm going to give you just some quick housekeeping tips, and then we'll jump right in. So first and foremost, on your lower right-hand corner of your screen, you will see our questions button. We do have time built in at the end of the presentation for you to ask Stefan some questions. You can submit them anytime. Additionally, as you are about to experience, we are going to be covering a ton of ground today. This session is packed. Good news, you don't need to take notes, because we are going to be supplying you with everything after the webinar ends. Actually, I think it's going to be going out tomorrow. But you will get the replay, you will get the slide deck, and you're also going to get access to a toolkit that we've created that is packed to the gills with worksheets, ideas, and everything you need to carry all of this forward in your organization. So without further ado, I'm just going to get out of Stefan's way. Over to you, Stefan.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you. And hello, everybody. And great to see so many people on this webinar. And I know that we have over a couple of hundred existing Engagement Multiplier clients. And thank you for your business. And it's great to be working with you in these interesting times. And great also to have a number of you here that have not yet experienced working with us. And I hope that today gives you a taste of what is possible. I want to start by talking about the UK's SAS, Special Air Service. So it's our elite military force. Their motto is "Who dares wins." And these are the guys that we send in when we need to get a job done. Highly secretive, but highly effective. And today I'm going to talk to you about how you can be daring in these challenging times. I'm going to explain to you what I mean by dare. It's a little different to the context here for the SAS, but it's highly and equally effective in you getting the job done. So today's topic is who dares wins, and how you can create engagement energy in your organization that's as easy as ABC. And I know that certainly in the UK, and I'm sure it's the same in the US, energy is on the headlines. Our energy costs have absolutely skyrocketed. This is energy that doesn't cost you money, but makes you money, which is a refreshing change. And I've been now focused on creating engaged organizations for almost 30 years. And so I've had the benefit of seeing how the landscape has changed over that period. And never before has it been more important than it is now to create engagement energy in your business that can help you navigate the challenging times that we're in. And so we're going to be sharing quite a lot of information today. And a phrase that you will have heard before is knowledge is power. Well, it isn't really, is it? It's only power when it's applied. So as Sarah just mentioned, we're going to be sharing with you today a number of capabilities, constructs, structures and frameworks that will enable you to engage in daring and create fantastic results in your business. But it obviously requires application. So at the end of today's webinar, there's going to be the ability for you to click and download some of the resources I'm talking about. And as Sarah mentioned earlier, we'll also be following up after today, because, and I say this with some humility, but hoping that this is an engaging presentation. Otherwise, what am I doing? But it's no good for it to be just that. I want you to leave today with some insight, hopefully some inspiration, but also the tools to be able to move things forward. So if you're a client of Engagement Multiplier, please, please, please connect with one of your client success managers after today, and they're completely equipped to help move things forward on any of the topics we're discussing. And if you're not a client of Engagement Multiplier, we're also here to help you. So please do get in touch after you've downloaded the resources, and we will help you to move forward with the topics we're discussing. We want to be helpful and useful. So I'm going to start by just getting some basics out of the way. And the first one is I want to talk about engagement, because It's quoted a lot and it's important, but we need to define it. So I want you to imagine for a moment that you are at the home stadium for the team you've supported since you were very small indeed, and it's the biggest game of the decade, and you've got the best seats on the centre line. So just think about that for a moment. I would imagine that most of the time that you're on your feet, not in your seat, and you're absolutely present, focused, and energized. If there's a fumble or a foul, your head's in your hands, and when they score, you're jumping up and down and cheering. And so you're absolutely there in the moment. I want you to now think about the same sport on television Sunday afternoon. You're perhaps, it's a team you perhaps don't so much care about. You may have just had a lovely lunch with friends now that we can meet up again. And you're sat on the sofa, you may be on social media, you may be playing with a dog, you may even be having a nap. The difference is your level of engagement. And sadly, and I've said this for some time, many employees are showing up for work like it's Sunday afternoon. They're not present, focused, and energized. They're not there in the moment, and you are not getting your best results from them. And in the times that we're living in right now, they are also flight risks. And we're seeing globally the impact of organizations, or the impact on organizations of employees that are not engaged and are seeking their happiness elsewhere. And it's costing a fortune. And just to sort of ground this a little, I often speak about a call center that I visited. It must be 6-7 years ago now. And I was walking around with the head of HR director after hours through a series of cubicles that looked very much like this. And everyone had gone home. So a lot of the desks still had papers on them. And I said, how many people actually work here? And she said, great question. Probably about 40. I said, well, hold on. There's over 100 desks that look like people have been sat at them. And she said, you didn't ask me how many people show up. She said, you asked me how many people actually work here. And that is the problem, okay? Because people that are not present, focused, and energized, they're not bringing their best selves in. They're not performing and giving you the value in your business that they could be if they were engaged. And also, they're probably looking at taking themselves elsewhere and creating a situation where you've got to costly and expensively find replacements at a time when it's difficult. So employee engagement isn't new. In fact, the last 10 years have seen the world wake up to how important it is. But and pre-pandemic, we were speaking about how do you attract and retain talent, not only in the hospitality profession, but in all sectors. Post-pandemic, we have exactly the same issue. In fact, it's exacerbated more than ever. And we talk about engagement being energy. And so what I want to do now for you is I want to use an example of energy to explain engagement, which will make it very easy for us as we go through this journey together today to sort of knit things together and get a picture of how you create that engagement energy in your business. So in nuclear physics, there's two types of nuclear reaction. There's the first, which we all really know about, is the most common. It's a fission reaction, and it involves splitting apart of atoms. It's what happens in atom bombs. It's what happens in nuclear reactors. Really powerful and can be, sadly, quite destructive, but a huge amount of energy. What's not often spoken about is its very close cousin, which is the exact opposite, and that is fusion. So fusion involves forcing atoms together. So think about it: fission, pulling them apart; fusion, putting them together. And fusion reactions are so much more powerful than fission reactions. In fact, just to give you, and it's really not relevant here today in the centre of Warwickshire, but fusion reactions are what would occur on the surface of the sun. And just to explain how powerful they are, scientists tell us that if we could harness 1 second's worth of the sun's energy, we would have enough energy to power the world's entire energy needs for over 500,000 years, which is just sort of incomprehensible to us because it's so powerful. Now, right now in France, there are a group of scientists from 35 nations at the International Thermonuclear Experimental Reactor, or ITER for short, and absolutely worth a Google. These guys have been now perfecting for some time, and they're very close to pulling this off in a reactor, fusion reactions, the same reactions that occur on the surface of the sun, realizing how much more powerful fusion is as an energy source to fission. And the great thing about this is when they pull this off, and I'm very confident they will, the way we think about energy is going to be transformed forever, because we already have the existing infrastructure in place. We already have the power lines. We have the lights in the ceiling. We have everything. We're just changing the power source. And that's how I want you to think about engagement energy in your business. You already have the business, the clients, the customers, the systems, the processes, the products. You're just changing the energy source that exists within an existing resource, probably underutilized resource, which is your team. So an interesting mindset and construct that what we're going to do is talk about how we really harness the power of that asset and shoot a different energy through your business that makes it so much easier for you to attract and retain talent, and in the terms of the SAS, get the job done. So let's just talk a little bit about how you create that energy. And it's actually quite straightforward. Simple, but not easy, requires some application. I was just talking yesterday, in fact, I was interviewed by David Colby from Colby Corp in America, and fantastic business. And we were talking about the changed times that we're living in. And he asked me for my view on what's important. And I said, let's get back to basics. So, and it's fundamentally true. We have lost sight of some of the basics. And isn't it the way that quite often things that work over time, we stop doing them in our personal lives and in our businesses? Today, I'm going to just be sharing with you some fundamental basics that are actually very straightforward, probably dealt with them before in some way, shape or form. What I'm going to do is show you how you can pull them all together really effectively, create that fusion and create that energy within your business that we absolutely know creates transformation. And before coming on today, I have to tell you, I was pretty excited. We've been working with this ABC concept now for some months, and we're seeing incredible results with the clients that are implementing it in their properties. So it's about your people, okay? We know that your people sit at the core of anything that you're doing. Without a great employee experience, there will be no great customer experience. And so, you know, the world's spoken about customer service in hospitality, guest experience for years. Great. Yes, we do a very good job in most cases of that. Let's now spend our energy and time focusing on our people, because when your people are engaged, everything else works so much better. And the way that you do it is that you pull together, and this is the ABC, and it's why I said it's as simple as ABC, 1, 2, 3. Yes, we know the song. Alignment, belonging, and clarity. And when you pull those together and you connect them to your people and you connect them to one another, which is really easy, that's when the engagement energy happens. That's when we start to find that the organization starts to really hum. And instead of you feeling, and I'm sure a number of you on this webinar today feel like you're trying to drag the organization along behind you, you will find that you're suddenly having to run to keep up. So wouldn't that be great, right? And yes, it is possible. And yes, we see it happen consistently. Just another fundamental foundation. If I said to you, describe for me the characteristics of a disengaged employee, we could list some adjectives very quickly and clearly. And if we said, let's do the same and list the characteristics of an engaged employee, we could list them. And if we put them side by side, which I've often done, by the way, in leadership workshops or workshops with groups of entrepreneurs and business owners, and I've said, if anyone in the room that runs a business or has a team feels they've got anyone in the red column in their business, put your hands up. And if I'm dealing with an honest room of people, most of the hands are in the air. If not all. And then I'll often say, well, if you think it's more than 10%, leave your hands up. And if you think it's less than 10%, take your hands down. And some hands go down. And I'll say, if you think it's more than 25%, leave your hands up. Less than 25%, take your hands down. And think about how you would answer this question, because my final question is, if you think it's more than 50%, leave your hands up. And if it's less than 50%, take your hands down. And think now whether your hand would be up or down. Most of the time, there's not really many hands in the room. And the reason for that is that when I ask the question and we've explained the adjectives, most people have a mental construct of what a disengaged employee looks like. And they think it looks like this. The reality is they're in disguise. So they're showing up on time. They're going through the motions, but they're not present, focused, and energized. They're not that sort of centerline moment that we described earlier. You're not getting your best work from them. And they're probably spending a fair amount of their time thinking about what their next move is and what's the organization they can go to where they will feel engaged and they will feel energized. And here's the sorry state of the times that we're living in right now. Gallup are telling us that 80% of people are simply not engaged and only 20% are. Horrible. I mean, we spend so much of our time doing what we do professionally. For 80% to be not engaged, I think, is a tragedy. But here's something that's really concerning. Gallup tell us that 16% of the 80%, or 16% of the total, are actively disengaged, and fundamentally, they're destroying the good work that the 20% that are engaged are doing. I mean, how demoralizing is that? You know, as the business owners and business leaders here, thinking about our own businesses, how demoralizing to have a business that's suffering in that way. So the solution is an engaged organization. And as I've said at the beginning, the way that you create that engagement energy is as easy as ABC. And ABC, now to give you some context here, stands for alignment, belonging, and clarity. And I know that a number of you will probably be looking at this slide and think, oh, well, we've heard about this before. I'm sure we have. This is not new. Okay, most of the good stuff in the world is not new. It's just not used enough and in the right way. And so I'm going to spend a bit of time on each of these three. I'm going to explain to you how you can effectively create alignment, belonging, and clarity in your business. And if you're already doing some of these things, I'm going to give you an opportunity to review them and maybe give them a bit of a polish and get them shiny again and really connect your team with them. And if you're not doing them, I'm going to give you the tools so that you can create them very quickly and very easily. And you will see immediately the results that come from doing so. So the dictionary defines alignment as a position of agreement or alliance. Okay. Now, in our world, alignment is created with, we call it VVP, vision, values, and purpose. So vision is what you're trying to achieve, where you're heading. Your purpose is a why that your employees have for showing up. It's not written for shareholders, not written for the customers, it's written for the employees. And it gives them a why for showing up. And you know, pre-pandemic, 77% of millennials were choosing workplace purpose over money. Right? It was important before the pandemic. We're going to talk about belonging in a moment. I believe it's equal. I believe it's more important today. And then your values, which are fundamental, are the guide rails for how you as an organization conduct business and how you expect your employees and team members to conduct themselves in the organization. Simple, but ask yourself, are you doing these, and are you doing these with even an 8 or 9 out of 10 in your business right now? Because we are seeing the impact that happens when you get these right and you get them combined. Without alignment, everyone's lost. Okay, it's a bit like if you go hiking and you've got no clarity on where you're heading, you don't ever get to your destination. And if you're leading an organization, you're losing energy, effort, time, and resources, and you're not going to get to your goals. And it's harder now getting to our goals in challenging times. So let's not put unnecessary obstacles in the way. So we want to be in a situation where vision, values, and purpose are together and united. And when you have that, there's some great things happen. And just a simple example here, 3 men digging a ditch. And you say to the first person, what are you doing? And he says, I'm digging a ditch. Second person, what are you doing? He says, I'm laying some foundations. He said, the third person, what are you doing? He says, sir, I'm building a cathedral. Same job. Now, I've seen businesses that you would think are not in sexy sectors at all, like nuts and bolts manufacturers, right? They're all able to create vision, values, and purpose that connect their team. And in the guide that we're going to provide you with, you'll see how easy it is for you to do that in your business. What happens when you have these things? Well, let's just look at some metrics, because Deloitte did a fantastic paper recently on this that showed that you get a 30% increase in levels of innovation. And innovation is very helpful in every business. What we found over the last 12 months, and it's something we are particularly proud of at Engagement Multiplier, is that our clients that are doing these things in their business are experiencing employee retention that is 60% better than the published market average. Okay, so if you think about your retention metrics right now, having retention metrics that are 60% better than the market average, you think of what it's costing you right now with retention, something we're hugely proud of. And it's about getting the basics right and connecting your team to them. And what we've also found is that because, and I know that our clients on this webinar will absolutely know this, but for those of you that aren't yet working with us, when we work with a client, you get the opportunity to see through a transparent score how connected your employees are to your purpose. And what we found is that organizations where the employees are scoring the purpose as engaged are qualifying overall as voted for by their team members confidentially and anonymously as engaged places to work. Just think about what the retention levels are of those businesses compared to businesses where there isn't a connection with the purpose and they're not being scored as engaged places to work. And when you have vision, values, and purpose defined, and your team members are connected to that, then it's a bit like having a treasure map. It's really easy to know where X marks the spot, and you're really clear on the direction of travel to get there. So I'm going to share with you because I think it's important just to give you some context. And in the interest, one of our values is authenticity. I just want to share with you our vision, our purpose, and our values. So our vision is to have 750,000 active employee licenses on our platform and lives impacted by 2025. And every single team member in our organization understands the contribution that their role makes in feeding into that. So we're all connected by that. We focus on it. We talk about it a lot. Everyone is engaged with that as a construct. Our purpose, as defined by our team members with involvement through the tools that we're going to provide you with at the end of today, is unlocking potential and improving lives. And we're very proud of the fact that we do that with our clients and our customers and their team members, but we also do it for each other. It's a philosophy that we have internally. How can we help each other to unlock each other's potential and improve the lives of the people we work with? And then finally, we have a statement that says, I face every day with my values, our values in mind. I face like iPhone. iFace stands for impact, fun, authenticity, caring, and enthusiasm. And we hire by those values, and we also systematically appraise based on those values. Each of our team members gets to score themselves every 90 days on those values, and their direct report also gets to score them. And there's a conversation that takes place about how they feel about the values and how they're living those values. And it's fantastic, the power that comes from this. But this doesn't just apply. I know we're thinking about business here, but this doesn't just apply in business. Having a vision and having purpose is important in our personal lives too, and it's fundamentally important. So I'm going to share with you. I'm going to share you with a deeply personal story that I believe makes very well the point about vision and purpose. So on the screen here is my wonderful son Ollie, who sadly, tragically died in 2019. We were on a family holiday, and we woke to find him at the bottom of a swimming pool, having gone for a midnight swim. Died of something called sudden adult death syndrome. Still not really clear. He was a qualified diving instructor, snowboard instructor, very healthy, very fit, and still mystifies us a little to this day. But we as a family had previously built 4 schools in Africa, one of the best educational experiences we'd ever given our children. And Ollie and I had one day we'd spoken regularly, about one day building 100 schools. There was 2 reasons for the 100. The first one was we'd built 4 and Madonna had built 14, and we're quite competitive. So we said, well, how can we do more than Madonna? And secondly, we'd spoken about what would be a big vision. And I said 100 schools. And Ollie said to me, Dad, he said, why 100? I said, well, you could unite an entire community around building 100 schools. That is both a vision and a purpose. And whilst we were waiting for the fire brigade to come and get Ollie out of the pool that day, my daughter said to me, she said, Dad, she said, can we build another school? Because this is so meaningless and we want to do something meaningful. And I said, no, we'll build 100 without even thinking about it. Now, Ollie had been writing anonymously on a website called Quora. A number of you may know it. And he'd said to me, Dad, I don't want to tell you my pseudonym because if I share that with you, you'll go and look at my work, and I want the world to value it independently first. I found his pseudonym the day after he died. His pseudonym was Sam Leaper. I went online and I found the articles, and putting to one side that I'm a proud and grieving father, I was blown away by the quality of what he'd written. So we published a book. It became a bestseller within 4 weeks. Sam Leaper's Little Book of Wisdom. And one of the things that Ollie wrote about in there, which was quite a shock for me at the time, was he'd written his bucket list. And the number one thing on his bucket list was the world better because he was here. So you can see how that also ties beautifully into a purpose. So we combined the 100 schools with Ollie's world better because, and I'm really proud to announce that we have so far funded 35 schools. We've actually built, in fact, we built last year 10 schools. So now we're on as many as Madonna. We've just started the build on another 10. So we will have beaten Madonna. And we are going to build 100 schools. And I've managed to unite an entire community around this vision and this purpose. And they're not employees. They are people that are connected by a vision and a purpose, and we're moving things forward. And so a personal example, but I hope that you'll take from that how powerful having a vision and a purpose is. And I want to bring it back now to this SAS concept of dare. Who dares wins. And daring for me is about doing the following. It's about defining, asking, refining, and engaging. And you're going to hear me say this a few times today, because this is a concept and a construct that you can really effectively apply in your business from today onwards. So when it comes to your purpose, your vision, or your values, defining first of all at a leadership level or a senior level in the business what they are and how they are is a great idea, and our guides and tools will provide you with the resources to do that. But then what you want to do, because it would be foolish to do anything otherwise, is to go to your team members and ask them how they connect with the vision, how they connect with the values, and how they connect with the purpose. We'll even give you the tools so you can actually see transparently how they're scoring against those. Once you get that insight, what you can do is objectively you can refine, because if they're not connecting with your team members, it's a waste of time. And I keep meeting business leaders when I'm doing keynotes and speaking at conferences. They'll often talk to me before I'm on stage and they'll say, yeah, we do a fantastic job. We have this and we have, and I ask them to explain it. And I'll say, how well do your employees connect with that? And they can't tell me. So what is the point? You need to know that your vision, your values, and your purpose are absolutely connecting to your team. Otherwise, they're not achieving anything. So we're going to provide you at the end of today with an engagement energy toolkit that said, as Sarah mentioned, it has all the resources in there, so you can create what we're describing today. So let's move on to belonging. A topic I love, because before the pandemic, I saw this coming. We were in the purpose era. Everyone's talking about how important purpose is, and people like PwC and others are doing these incredible white papers explaining the difference between purpose-driven organizations and those that aren't. And it was astonishing that the amount of profit that the purpose-driven organizations were making versus the losses and disasters that the ones weren't purpose-driven were experiencing. And I said, I feel that we're going to move into the belonging era. This is before the pandemic happened. And then the pandemic happened and we all got locked in our homes. And all of a sudden, belonging just went straight to the top of the list, because it's a human requirement, right? Where if you think back to medieval times, being banished was one of the best forms of punishment. Take you out of the community. You don't belong anymore. Go to Siberia, get out. Now, belonging has been really sort of emphasized by the experience that we've had. And the dictionary defines it as an affinity for a place or a situation. And the pandemic really got me thinking. We were sort of focused on how could we be extraordinarily helpful and useful to our clients and the businesses we serve. And I saw belonging being right up there. I'm thinking, how can we help take something that's actually a little bit intangible, perhaps a bit woo-woo, and how can we create a structure and a framework that makes it really easy for our clients to create belonging in their businesses? And in our world, belonging is created through connection and feelings. I want you to just think about this for a moment. So you can't belong where you don't feel cared for. Pretty obvious. And you won't feel cared for if you don't believe that your feelings are important. I was interviewing somebody today, and I asked them why they're thinking of leaving their current role. And he said, my wife's been really ill the last few weeks, and all they want to know about is my business activities. No one cares. That was enough for him. He didn't feel a sense of belonging. He's now looking for another job. He's actually performing like a rock star in the organization he's in. But it's not about the money. It's not about his business performance. It's about a sense of belonging. And so let's just look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Okay, this is not new. Look at belonging right in the middle there. Okay, so let's just see what happens when we take belonging out. All you have left are physiological needs, water, food, shelter, and safety needs, employment. It becomes just about the paycheck. So if you are not creating belonging in your business right now, it's about the paycheck. What happens when it's about the paycheck? Right now, there's a lot of people happy to write a bigger paycheck. And so these people, the employees are going to move. Put belonging back in, create belonging, and you get to move away from that, I don't swear, but that carousel that's going on right now of people moving for more money. The music is going to stop at some point. People are talking about the great resignation becoming the great regret, because most employees are realizing the grass is not greener. So focus on creating the environment and the circumstances and the conditions where you are creating alignment and you are creating belonging, because that's where excellence happens, that's where growth happens, that's where businesses scale. And metrics, Harvard tell us, the reasonable source, that when you have it, you get a 56% improvement in job performance. You're able to reduce employee turnover by half. That would be nice, right? And 75% reduction in sick days. So it's pretty important. In fact, it should be something that's on every single boardroom table right now, but it isn't, and it should be. If you understand how they feel, you will understand why they behave. I want you to just think about that for a moment. If you understand how people feel in your business, you will understand why they behave. Just like this chap I interviewed at midday today, who, if his manager had taken some time to understand how he feels right now, then he will understand why he's behaving a certain way. In fact, this guy wouldn't be even leaving, because he would be feeling that he was cared for and he had a sense of belonging. It's not hard. And so I was thinking about, how do we take what is now blindingly obvious to us all and authentically in your business create the conditions so that you can demonstrably connect with your team, and you have to be able to do this authentically, right? There's no room for faking here. You've got to believe this and connect with it, because it is very powerful and it works. And the way you do it is you create what we call a people charter. So in the guide that we're providing, we're giving you the tools to do this. We've done this in our business. And I'm just going to tell you what a charter is. I'm sure there's a number of you here that did Latin at school. I didn't. But I have since learned that the Latin word charter effectively conveys a series of rights or obligations. And it's a great way to think about a charter. So a charter in your world is a series of, or in my world, is a series of rights that I believe my team members have when they come to work in our business or work from home but part of our business. And then secondly, a series of obligations that sits on me as an employer to provide the conditions and create the circumstances where that is true. Even without a bit of help from Siri there, which I don't know why that happened. But our people charter, and what this will enable you to do is create a people charter. This is in the guide. I know this is a very wordy slide, but you'll see that this is about how we want our people to feel. So energized, excited, that we genuinely care, proud, respective, able to bring their whole selves to work. I know a number of these would be the same in your business, and you don't have to reinvent the wheel here, but you do have to feel it and believe it. And once you've defined what a people charter could look like in your business, guess what we do next? We go and ask the team members to give us their feedback in a structured way so that we can refine our people charter, know that it really connects with our team, and then we can engage. And that's when the magic happens. And we're finding that, and this excites me because we're seeing now in this sort of this carousel that I talk about, in this war for talent, we're seeing our clients utilize a people charter in the interview process. Think about how easy it was for me today at midday to talk to this candidate and say, I'm sorry to hear that. At Engagement Multiplier, we have a people charter, which is all about feelings. And I was able to show him the people charter, and I was able to authentically explain what we felt would be his rights if he came to work here. He's emailed me this afternoon saying how energized he was by the conversation, and he really hopes he gets to the next stage of the interview. So having this in your business does give you an edge, because most businesses are not doing it. Let's move on to clarity. So the illuminating power of clarity. So the dictionary definition is the quality of being coherent and intelligible. Okay, so a way of thinking about it in our world is that it's the antidote to resistance. And the reason I love this is one of my early mentors said to me, Stefan, he says, resistance comes from a lack of clarity. When you think about that, the last thing you need right now in your business is more resistance through a lack of clarity. And yet a lack of clarity is rife in even the most engaged organizations. The trick is to cut through it and find yourselves in a position where clarity exists with your team members and with the organization. Not only around vision, values, purpose, and belonging, but around the direction of the business, what's happening, where it's going, etc. And the reason it's so important is what you miss out, they'll make up. And I'm sure a number of you can't see you right now, but you're probably nodding your heads because you'll know of situations in your business where, because there's been a misunderstanding, there's subsequently the knock-on effect is a whole bunch of issues. So organizations that lack clarity, they're slow, they're mired in resistance. Data to back this up once again exists. Great study recently by LSA Global. When you have clarity, they say you have 58% faster revenue growth and you're 72% more profitable. Big, big numbers. And it starts with listening. Clarity starts with listening. I love, love, love Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I'm sure a number of you have read it. If you haven't, it's absolutely worth a look. One of the habits is seek first to understand, then be understood. Too many leadership teams don't spend enough time seeking to understand first before trying to be understood. They're making decisions in a vacuum. They're not doing it with the ask in dare. And what's happening is they're making decisions which are fundamentally not on point. So the clarity, the key to clarity is listening. And here's the thing. We have 2 ears and 1 mouth. We should use them in proportion. And it's not just about listening once, it's about listening on a regular basis. And man, our whole business, my whole business is built around the objective of giving our clients complete clarity on how their employees are feeling, what they're thinking, and how the key metrics in your business are being scored. Because why would you not want to know that? Because decisions are easy when we have the right data. Think back to a decision you've had to make in recent times that was really hard, and think about why it was hard. I can guarantee you it's because you didn't have all the data. If you have all the facts and all the data, decisions are very, very straightforward. So we're going to provide you with access to our technology, if you're not an existing client, completely for free, to understand the extent to which clarity exists in your organization right now. And we've already defined a series of very well thought through questions that you can ask your team members that will mean that they give you data, which means that you can then take actions to refine and then subsequently engage. So alignment, belonging, and clarity, these are the keys to you unlocking the power of engagement within your organization. And there's a fundamental reason why this works so well is that I've spent my life looking to make these intangibles quantifiable. Because when you make something quantifiable, the great thing about that is that if you can measure it, you can improve it. And so what our clients get to be able to see is they get to be able to quantify where things are right now, and they can think then about how they can improve them. And one of the things that I'm a real fan of is the Japanese concept or belief in Kaizen. Kaizen refers to making a series of incremental improvements, but layering them up rapidly. And then over time, when you get to look back, the transformational impact of all these little changes is seen. To give me a short water break, I'm going to play you a short video, which always makes me smile, which I want you to watch and look at how they've made this particular exercise quantifiable. There's a metric that you'll hear read out early on, which is a quantifiable metric. And then I want you to see what's happened a little bit later on after the Kaizen approach has been followed.
But Holland comes in for a pit stop. Time to refuel and change tires. Lou Moore himself changes the tires. Only 4 crew members, including the driver, are allowed to work on the car. It's a tense time. Holland stays in his seat, anxious to get away. Let's watch. Tires are changed at last. A crewman polishes the windshield as Holland moves away just 67 seconds after he stops.
So there we have it. So that concept of layering all those improvements over time, and yes, they had done a better job of attracting and retaining talent because there was more of them. That's what happens though, right? As your business grows with all these incremental improvements. So back to DARE. So as you now know, DARE stands for define, ask, refine, and engage. And to do anything else, as I said earlier, and I don't mean to be blunt, it's foolish, because why would you want to put yourself in a position as a leadership team where you're making decisions in a vacuum when actually the fundamental is how you connect your most important resource, your people that sit at the center of any successful organization, and create that engage, that alignment, that belonging, and that clarity. And when you do that, as we spoke about earlier, we spoke about fusion and how bringing those together and putting those components in place, putting in place and making sure that you have a vision, values, and a purpose that your team connect with. You have a people charter, you have the ability to connect with people on a human level, and you can authentically have your leaders and team really embrace the concept of belonging and create that place where people want to work, even when working remotely, and putting yourself in a position where it's easier to make the decisions in your business because you have the right data. Because why would you do anything else? Because the right data makes things very easy. And as I said at the beginning, when you get this right, the energy happens. And instead of feeling like you're dragging the organization along, you're having to run to keep up. And so next time you feel the sun, it's not out today, but I'm sure it will be soon. Next time you feel that sun, I want you to remember that is fusion. That's bringing those parts together in an engaged organization. That's alignment, belonging, and clarity around your people. And you overlay that with some daring, which is define, ask, refine, and engage. And you'll watch what happens. It's absolutely wonderful. So thank you very much for listening. I think we're going to move now into some questions. Hopefully there's one or two questions. If you want to download the toolkit, there's a bit.ly link there. You can simply snap that now. And there's a QR code as well. But we will also be following up after this webinar as well. So, right. Sarah, you're there. Oh, you're there. Sarah.
I am.
Okay.
And off we go. We have more than one or two questions. And just a reminder, we actually have about 12 minutes to go, which is great. So do feel free to drop a question in the lower right-hand corner. So let's go ahead and I'll just start from the top here. Sammy Reynard asks, how do you tell whether or not your people really embrace your company purpose statement? It's a good question.
It's a great question. I don't want to be flippant, but ask. So there's no, I found that the times in my leadership journey where I've been a vulnerable leader, they're some of the best moments, right? Especially if you're leading with the right intent at heart. And so by all means, craft a purpose statement or what you believe would be, a good start. And in fact, in the guide we're providing you with, there's a few steps that we would encourage you to follow that enables you to then go to your team to see to what extent, which of the statements they connect with the most. And there's a process you can follow that gets you there. If you've already got a purpose statement, then I would strongly encourage you to go to your team with it and ask them a series of questions. And the team here can help you if you need any support with this, but ask your existing team how well they connect with it. Is it meaningful for them or not? And look what happens. And if it's scoring 10 out of 10, brilliant, box ticked, move on. If it's not, then you've got an opportunity to make it better. And
I will even add to that. We've actually created an on-demand survey, a really short one. I think it's only got 2 questions called Purpose Check-In for this exact purpose. And so, Sammy, if you would follow up with us, support@engagementmultiplier.com, a member of our team will send you that information. The next is Martine Duval. Don't you think that people get tired of being surveyed frequently?
Yeah, they absolutely do. but they also completely disengaged when surveyed infrequently. So one of the problems that I think exists right now is annual surveys are a waste of time, right? The world moves so fast. And even surveys every 6 months. I was having this conversation with a very successful HRD from one of the UK's leading 5-star hotels just before this webinar. And if you don't have sufficient frequency, people disengage. If you go too much, they disengage. So pulse surveys have got to the point where they irritate. But how I would encourage you to think about it, and we've seen evidence of this, if you are doing something meaningful, very important word, once every 90 or 120 days, it doesn't get old. It's not so frequent to irritate, but what it does is it creates, and we often talk about the work we do with the clients is to help them create a communication an engagement ecosystem within their business where people feel safe, they can volunteer thoughts and suggestions, but because it's part of the business operation and they're used to seeing it because it's happening every 3 to 4 months and it's not too onerous, little and often is better than lots infrequently. So you end up with this sort of regular system of feedback, them feeling belonging and part of it, because their opinion matters, and then you're taking action and you're telling them what you're doing because there's clarity and you're communicating effectively, and that really works. And we see a marked difference. And in fact, we've had this. Our client success managers, I know, will be smiling when they hear me say this, because they're frequently contacting our clients that if they've moved into not doing that 90 to 120 day cycle, we see a drop off in terms of effectiveness and engagement in that organization. So yes, too frequently, too much. Infrequently also is bad.
I would also just add to that, that if your organization, if your leadership are good at following up and your employees do not feel that surveys are an exercise in futility, you will not experience survey fatigue. We have a couple more that just came in. The next is from Jacqueline Pringle. And this is a good one. How do you ensure enthusiasm and commitment from your leadership team to drive this from the top and make it successful?
Yeah, it's a great question. Reminds me of my wonderful late grandfather who said, Stefan, remember, a fish rots from the head. So harsh phrase, but you do absolutely need to make sure, first of all, there is alignment with your leaders. Do you have the right leadership team? So first of all, do your leadership team connect with, do they have batteries included? And do they connect with the fact that vision, values, purpose, belonging, clarity are important, right? Do they care about the employees? And do they think, it's important that employees have a vote and have a voice? Or are they the old style of leadership that thinks that everything you need to give them is a paycheck at the end of the month, because it isn't anymore? And so most organizations have got good quality leadership in place. Now, certainly, one of the joys of Engagement Multiplier is most of the clients we engage with already are conscious of the importance of what we do. So, but I would encourage you to, first of all, just have a look with leadership and speak with leadership to make sure that you have that alignment at a leadership level, because otherwise it's going to be very, very hard, and it's not authentic. It's going to be very hard getting it across the whole organization. And we have seen some organizations make some changes to leadership to remove what might be barriers that would otherwise exist.
I would also say that DARE construct that you were talking about earlier, because it starts with asking leadership to define either the issue or the question that you need to take to then to your employees, also will help with that particular exercise. The next one is, this is also a good one from RuPaul Fox. How do you promote that these surveys are completely anonymous, as I believe this has an impact on participation rate? This is a common question.
Yeah, it is. It's something that's very common. It's quite hard. But in some cases, it just takes a little bit of time. So one of the fundamentals for establishing Engagement Multiplier was that it had to be confidential and anonymous. It's heavily encrypted. I can't break the code. I'm the founder. So we do completely anonymize everything. And we go to great lengths when we're working with a client to communicate that to the employees. But you'll still get a group that don't believe it at the beginning. Now, they believe it even less if you're running an internal survey. That's sort of like really, really hard to get them to believe it's confidential and anonymous. But even with an external provider that does this professionally, often there'll still be some skepticism from some of the team. But comes back to the answer I gave to the earlier question. When you're consistent but not too frequent, and you make this part of your business operation, people over time get to appreciate, we have hard evidence of this, the number of people that trust that it is confidential, anonymous, really rapidly skyrockets because it's the truth, and they just need to hear it and see it a few times before they absolutely believe it.
I would put, I agree. And I would put a finer point on that by saying that trust will build when employees realize that there's no retaliation, because we make it rather impossible for people to retaliate because you cannot find out who said what or who responded to what. And that trust will build over time. So if you have a skeptical employee base, it's probably because they have a good reason to be skeptical. And so working with an organization like Engagement Multiplier that guarantees that anonymity is going to help you rebuild that trust. We have another one from Celeste Ross and Stefan. I think you're going to like this one. Have you ever engaged the entire team in creating a people charter? And I'm remembering in particular some of the work you've done with some of our larger hotel clients and their management teams who there was one in particular I know that had some real skeptical players that you brought around.
Yes, yes, we have. And it's very easy for you to do the same in your businesses. And I'm just back from North Carolina, where I was speaking at a hospitality conference to a number of very successful hotel owners. And the hotel I stayed at, it happens to be a client of ours, very engaged property called Old Edwards Inn and Spa in the Highlands. And one of the things whilst I was there, I spent some time with the 52 leaders. And in less than 2 hours, we were able to create a people charter. They were very clear on the reasons they loved working at Old Edwards. And what we've done is we've actually taken the entire exercise that we did with them and we've packaged it, and it's in the toolkit that we're sharing with you. So you can do exactly the same. It's a very rewarding exercise and very, very easy to do. And you end up with a people charter that leadership have had a hand in, which you can, so that's the define part. Then you can do the ask part, sharing it with the broader team and getting them to comment on it. Then you can refine it, and then you can make it part of your business.
Fantastic. We have 2 more minutes and one more question from Amber Silverton. How do I do a purpose, should I do a purpose, people charter, vision, or values first? Which point do you suggest is using for the starting point?
That's a great question. I think your vision is the most important thing in the first instance, because once you have your vision and you can think about the values that you would like to see displayed in your business, so the VV first, then it becomes easier, I think, for you to think in terms of what a great purpose would look like for you. And I'm just thinking back to the purpose guide that we've created for you. And in order to be able to create the statements that I talk about at the beginning of the purpose guide, I think you would find that easier if you'd already clarified a big vision and you'd already thought about your values. I think it would be much easier. Well, I know it would actually, now thinking out loud. That's the order. Thank you. I've never thought about it in that way before. I've never been asked the question. The answer is vision, values, and then you'll be able to start thinking about the purpose statement, defining questions. And was it Amber you said? Sorry.
Yes, Amber Silverton.
Amber. So Amber, when you thinking about your question, if you have a look at the guide, download the guide and look at the purpose guide questions, you'll see exactly why I just said what I said.
Fantastic. Well, that was a great question to bring it home. We are at time and we've got through all the questions. So well done you, Stefan. Everyone, thank you very much for your time and attention today. Do be watching your email, because we're going to be sharing a replay, the deck, as well as a link to the toolkit with you tomorrow. You'll receive that in your email tomorrow. So everyone, thank you so much for your time. Stefan, well done. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Great.
Enjoy the remainder of your day.
ABCs. Okay. Bye-bye.